Hi everyone, Brallus here, and welcome to my review of Hell Let Loose, a World War II first-person online shooter developed by Black Matter and published by Team 17. It was just released onto Steam Early Access June 6, 2019. This is a no BS review, meaning that all the gameplay was captured by myself, and all the opinions on the game are the opinions from my own experience and from my time with the game. Now, if you're new to the channel or new to my style, my reviews are what I believe video game reviews used to be before they went off on all sorts of different directions. Instead of pushing any narratives about a political message a game should portray, my reviews will be covering the game for exactly what it is, a video game. First off, let's take a look at my specs and settings for the game. I'm running this game on my GTX 1080 Ti with an i7 7700 and 32GB RAM. You see from my settings here, I'm running the game in 4K with the majority of the settings set to ultra or high, with a few of the heavy settings that aren't necessary when gaming in 4K set to medium to keep a stable frame rate. Now, let's hop into the game. So once we click in list to bring up a list of available servers, you can see here that there are a fairly decent amount of servers available. However, I didn't notice many North America servers in action, so the ping per server can be a bit high. But I'm going to give the game the benefit of the doubt because the game just launched. So now once we've selected our server, the game brings us to the deploy screen, or war map if you will. From here, we choose our squad. Now there are 4 different squads, or if you want to call them divisions, available to choose from, which all play their key role in the fight and the flow of combat. First off, you have your commanders, which set up spawn points and direct the flow of combat on the battlefield. Infantry is pretty self-explanatory. These are your foot soldiers who bring the fight to the front lines. These include your medic roles, even anti-tank roles, your riflemen, and all the sorts. The armor squad are your vehicle drivers. In order to drive a tank, you have to be in the armored division, otherwise you can't drive a tank, you can only help repair. Lastly, recon are your snipers and spotters on the battlefield. Now with that being said, let's pick our class and let's hop in and see how this bad boy looks. Hell Let Loose runs in Unreal Engine 4, so naturally it's going to be a looker, right? Well, yes and no. Up close, the textures are great. From the rusted and broken down howitzers surrounded by 155mm shells to the small puddles and the footprints of combating soldiers, the static ground textures in this game are gorgeous. However, it's when things get moving that the game starts to show its early access growing pains. There are occasional frame rate dips when things do get heavy and chaotic on the battlefield, and a weird sort of screen door effect with shadow textures at a distance. There's also quite a bit of pop-up in the distance with grass and trees, even with the foliage settings at epic and view distance set to high. Overall though, I've never been one to be really bothered by pop-up, so in my opinion, and this is again my opinion, I wouldn't necessarily say it detracts from the entire experience. When things are getting intense on the battlefield though, you tend not to notice those little graphical hiccups. Now, when comparing Hell Let Loose to more veteran World War II shooters, like for example Rising Storm Red Orchestra 2, which has been out since September 2011, by the way, I will be making a few comparisons in this review to that game, being that they are very similar in terms of setting and theme, it leaves a bit to be desired for Hell Let Loose on the front lines of graphical fidelity and optimization. But hopefully this is something that will be fine-tuned during its early access phase. Good graphics are always an enticing aspect of a game, but a game is nothing without solid gameplay and the immersion factor of actually feeling like you're wearing the shoes of the character that you control. In a 100-player online World War II shooter, the immersion factor is at best a key component to the game's success. The maps in this game are big, and I mean real big. So there's a lot of time spent running, and running, and running. However, once you enter the fray with your soldiers, there's a big payoff and that immersion factor comes in swinging. Similar to the feel of Red Orchestra 2, the famous quote, "War is hell," taken from General William Sherman's Civil War speech rings true here. This is not a game that you can go charging into battle expecting to drop shot the enemy in 360 no-scope. This is a game that requires patience and prudence, as one small slip-up like uncrouching from cover at the wrong time can lead to instant death. Keeping a watchful eye on the flow of battle before making your next move is absolutely essential, and there is something to say about the massive payoff to pulling successful flanking tactics on the enemy. One negative takeaway about the immersion factor is that when you die, you will sometimes need to wait in excess of 1 to 2 full minutes before being able to respawn. I understand that they are trying to even the odds and carefully control the flow and intensity of combat, but this can sometimes be an unwelcome break in immersion, especially coming out of a heavy battle. There are times though when things get so heavy that you need a break from the action. A good example of this is when a squad mate and I were pinned down behind the burning twisted metal of a friendly tank while taking incoming fire from an enemy tank and a heavy machine gun nest. It's moments like these that make the 1 to 2 minute respawn timer worth it, because the hunger to get into more intense situations like this is real. As expected from a World War II shooter, the sound design is excellent. There are no backing tracks sounding off with explosions and gunfire to make you feel like you're in the battle. All of the gunfire and explosions that you hear in the game are happening in real time. Things can be eerily quiet one moment, and then the next moment you're wondering how you got in the middle of what sounds like 500 psychopaths with automatic rifles and grenades firing off at once without hesitation. From the automatic fire of the MG42 to the clinging sound when reloading your M1 Garand, the guns sound great. The explosions and shrieking of your dying squad mates ring your ears and cause distress, adding to the immersion factor of being in the battle. Overall, you can see they put a lot of love and effort into creating it such an atmospheric experience for the player, and the payoff is by and large a great success. So this all sounds like it's a 10 out of 10 or highly recommend or 2 thumbs up, right? Well, not exactly. And that isn't necessarily a bad thing to say. Hell Let Loose is going up against some heavy hitters in the multiplayer first-person shooter world, like Red Orchestra 2, Battlefield 1942, and even Battlefield 5, so it has some big shoes to fill. It is an early access title, which means it is trailing behind in features and polish of those fully featured releases. It does, however, come hard to recommend when its twin game, Red Orchestra 2, has almost 8 years of updates, technical polish, and content under its belt. For now, if you're looking for an immersive, hardcore, big spectacle World War II online shooter, then I would have to point you in the direction of Red Orchestra 2 until Hell Let Loose sees more TLC, development time, and more content infusions. I'm not at all saying that this is a bad game. All I'm saying is that this game needs a little bit more time in the oven before it can convince me to come over full time from Red Orchestra 2. However, this goes to say I will be keeping an eye on this title and doing another review further down the line once it leaves early access and gets some more love. That's it though, and thank you all for watching. Please leave a comment with your thoughts and opinions on this title below if you've played it, your experience, anything else you want to talk about, as well as any recommendations for reviews that you would like to see from myself or the Seventh Sword on this channel. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you again soon to talk gaming.